Hello, everyone. My author publishers, have I not got a treat for you for May Book Sales Month? I want to introduce you to the awesome and fabulous Pete Cohen. Hey, Pete, welcome. Thank you for coming.
It's my pleasure. Absolute pleasure to be here. Yes, I'm very passionate about all things books and all things publishing.
Yeah, and we've got a special book coming out, but we'll talk about that in a minute because everyone can learn from what we're planning with this book. But you have published a few books in your time. Can you share with us that journey?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, it's a long journey. So the first book I wrote, I think, came out in 1997. It was called Slimming with Pete. And a lot of people thought it was called Swimming with Pete. It wasn't called Swimming with Pete. And I don't know, I was working in the health and fitness industry. I worked out quite quickly that people's mindset was probably the biggest issue, that they weren't losing the weight. So I wrote a book, which was a novel, which was a story about the people I'd worked with and what I'd learned along the way. Now, of course, coming up with an idea and writing a book is easy. Getting someone to publish it was a challenge. So I wrote to all the major publishers, got turned down from all of them, and literally almost gave up. And a friend of mine just said, look, don't give up. Just, find a smaller publishing house. So I found a very small publishing house in Wales called Anglo-American Books, who published a lot of neurolinguistic programming books and kind of self-help books. They didn't pay me in advance or anything like that. We worked together on it. The book came out, and I basically targeted a few people that I wanted to review the book. And one of them was a lady called Amanda Ursel, who used to review diet books in the Sunday Times, back of the Sunday Times.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of hassled her, but in an ethical way. And she basically succumbed, and she met me, and she'd never met any of the authors before. And she wrote such a glowing review. She wrote something like, by the end of this book, you've discovered how you can lose weight and feel great about yourself. So obviously, that being in the Sunday Times,
Yes.
all of a sudden, thousands of book sales. And then I got a fax from Random House, right? A fax offering me £25,000 for an advance for a book about weight loss. And that became, that sold 90,000 copies. And then we did another book with them, which was like a shorter version because it was a big fat book. It was called Lighten Up. And then who came knocking on the door? HarperCollins. HarperCollins came knocking on the door, which again was like, it was crazy because, I'm a dyslexic. I'm not really a writer. All of my books, I've learned to become a writer, but I've worked with writers. So we published with them a book called Habit Busting, Fear Busting, a stop smoking book, a self-esteem book, a book called Life DIY. And then we were competing. We had both of them eating out the palm of our hands. And I'll just tell you a very quick story. That we had a meeting with Random House. There were 16 of them and 3 of us. And my coach was there. He was my coach, my mentor, my agent. And we talked. And at the end, my coach had said nothing. I turned to him. I said, do you want to say something? And he said, do you want me to speak? I said, yes. He said, who here has ever been in love? Everyone put up their hands. This is like 20 years ago. And then he said, who here ever received a love letter? I think they all put up their hands. He said, who here ever received a love letter? And the more you read it, the more you felt what the person felt who wrote it. Said, most of them said, yeah. He goes, that's the book we want to write. And he told me afterwards, his feeling was that they weren't really interested in that. They just wanted to write a book. They weren't interested in writing a book that you either put it down because it's too personal, or you can't put it down because it's too much. So we turned down a 5-book deal with Random House, believe it or not.
Wow.
Yeah. But I don't regret that. And then I did another book with Rodell, which was called Sort Your Life Out. Some Dr. Hilary Jones, who's a very famous television doctor in the UK, he forwarded it and he said, I wish you'd called it Sort Your Wife Out, because he was going through a divorce at the time. And then I've gone down, since then, the self-publishing route. And now, obviously, our paths have crossed. And, delighted to be working with you. I feel I'm so happy that we met and we've been working on this project. I'm sure it's the first of many projects. Absolutely. Because books are most definitely here to stay. Stories are always going to need to be told. So, yeah, that's kind of a potted history.
Isn't that amazing, guys? God, I just love listening to that story. I swear I could just, and I hear something new every time I listen to it.
Yeah.
But you had built a little bit of a brand up for yourself, hadn't you? Because I tell all of my authors, build up your readership, get yourself visible, get yourself out there.
Yeah.
And, you know, so you had I know it was back in what, 1997, but you were on TV and things like that around that time, weren't you?
Yeah, so I had a career in television, but back then it was very different because of the
Yeah,
whole social media thing really wasn't there. And I never really relied on that. I think now, well, I didn't rely on it; it wasn't here.
yeah.
So now we live in a different era, and I think my thing to anyone who wants to get into publishing is to take it to another level by really thinking about super fans. Have people around you that everything that you put out they want to consume, and the best way to do that is to be a really good example to them, be there for them, listen to them, because if you have 1,000 super fans, believe you me, you have a big business. And
They
that's where
talk.
I've built. I'm sorry.
They talk, don't they? And they tell
They
their
talk, yeah,
friends,
yeah. They
you
talk,
know.
and that's part of the key, and to recognize, what you have as well. Never forget the power of words. Words change lives, and we live in a wonderful time now, probably more than ever. There's more people publishing, but I think there's more opportunities for us to get our word and our material out into the world.
Mm, absolutely. So let's talk Clubhouse because you're one of the Clubhouse kings. I see you as. We
Yeah.
met in I think Randa's room, and then moved over to,
Yeah.
or I was in your room as well, and absolutely loved it. So let's talk Clubhouse for authors as well, especially. You know, if whenever you're hearing these stories, somebody has that says they have a book, you check it out, don't you?
Yeah, well, Randa, who runs that room, Entrepreneurs with Heart, I found her really, really, really randomly, because when Clubhouse came out, I was like, this is like a toy, it's like, whose room can you go in? So literally, I went in her room and there was like 10 people in there. And it was before she started that room. And I just listened, and she brought up, excuse me, she brought me up on stage, and then we just hit it off. And we've been friends ever since. And what I love about Clubhouse is, with social media, I've always found it to be, I don't know whether superficial is the right word, but it's always a bit one way. Unless you've got Facebook groups, which I have. If you're reaching out to a cold audience, Clubhouse is amazing, because once people hear, they very quickly get a sense of where you're coming from, if you're authentic, if you're a good person. And that's happened. That's happened a lot. So it's a great way. Look at all the people in the book that we've
Mm.
written. I didn't know any of them
Like
before Clubhouse came along.
there's amazing people on there. Like it's just not, you know, there's people that you wouldn't expect to find on Clubhouse, like guys like you, and you know, you build up connections
Michael
with
Jackson's
genuine.
bodyguard, Michael Jackson's bodyguard, who was Michael Jackson's bodyguard for 10 years, Dame Kelly Holmes, who
Yeah,
is a double gold medal athlete. And then there's some incredible stories. There's the lady who works with
Alex's
people,
story. Yeah,
Alex Flynn, who's
yeah, I
Parkinson,
love that
wants,
story.
and we want to get those stories out there. So we're featuring all of these stories. And again, stories change lives. We're in the story making business. So um, yeah, it's going to be awesome. And then all the money going to charity. And I'm sure it's going to be the first of many books.
Absolutely. So, what are your top tips for people wanting to sell their books?
Get super fans.
Hmm.
Ask people to review your books. Ask people to make a video about your books. What else? Do little launch parties. Launch parties on Zoom. Get everyone together. Like a coffee morning with Zoom, and just get people talking about. Ask people to help you. People don't like asking for help, but if I said to you, Karen, which I've said to you, and you've said to me, what can I do for you? How can I help you? That opens up it was Martin Luther King, right, who said the most important question we should be asking is, what can I do for you? So even if you have a book and you ask someone, hey, what can I do for you? Hear what they say. And sometimes people will reciprocate that and say, what can I do for you? And you can say, well, I've just bought out this book. I'd love it if you could read it. I'd love it if you could make a review for me. believe in it, be excited about it, and be prepared to put in the work, because it's the compounding effect, the law of aggregation. You know, a book I know that's touched your life, my life, your sister's life, Think and Grow Rich. You know, it's the 3 feet from gold. It's like, what lengths are you prepared to go until the crescendo, takes over?
I'm actually interviewing Greg Reed for this series as well.
How did you?
I was
Wow. How did you?
I was
How
chatting
did
to
you?
him. I was chatting to him earlier on. He signed with Serenity Press for a book. So
Just thought you dropped that in there, right?
no, it's I have you, and then I have him that I'm interviewing later. So it's the two of you in one day. It's a mighty feast for these guys. So guys, get your super fans, focus and set your intentions. You know the way I talk about all the time. Set powerful intentions and have the courage to act on them. Know those inspired thoughts. Know those opportunities that are aligned with those things, and have the courage to action them. And wait till you see you fly. Thanks so much, Pete, for joining me. Where can people
My
find
pleasure.
you? And you have a 30-day free course
Yeah,
that
yeah.
people can
We
get.
we have a free. Thank you so much. We have a 30-day kickstart, which actually is a great thing for people to do, because I'm a personal development junkie. All my books have been on personal and professional development. This program is really about helping people connect to who they can become. You know, we have a relationship to our past. We have a relationship to our present. Not everyone has an inspired relationship with who they're becoming, and it's like, the more you can learn to do that, the more you can take inspiration and advice from your future self. So yeah, it's just go to my365, which is mi365.me, and they'll come across the program. So
MI, isn't it? .me, MI. There you
mi365.me,
go.
me.
Guys, go and do the 30-day program and wait till you see you'll be book selling machines by the end of it.
Yeah,
Set the intention. If that's what you want to be, that's what you will be. Thank you so much, Pete.
it's a pleasure. Thank you.
Bye.